When someone keeps you in their thoughts more than they admit, it shows in the way they hold on to the tiniest pieces of information about you. Remembering small details isn't just about having a good memory, it's about selective attention. She may act casual, but the things she remembers reveal exactly where her mind wanders when you're not around. You might have mentioned once, in passing, your favorite snack, a childhood nickname, a song you vibe with, or a random story about something that happened years ago. To you, it was nothing. To her, it stuck. And it stuck because she replayed that moment, thought about it later, and attached meaning to it that you probably weren't even aware of when you said it. You'll notice she brings these details back at unexpected moments. You might be out somewhere and she points out something you like without you reminding her. Maybe she sends you a meme related to a joke you made weeks ago, or checks in about a plan you briefly mentioned you were nervous about. Even the way she refers to your preferences, what you like, what you hate, what makes you laugh, isn't random. It's a sign she stores those details because they connect her to you when you're not physically present. It becomes even more clear when other people don't recall the same things. You could be in a group and you realize she finishes your sentence or reminds you of something you forgot you even said. She might ask if you've taken care of something you talked about once, like fixing your car, going to an appointment, or studying for something important. Someone who isn't thinking of you wouldn't bother connecting those dots, let alone remembering enough to bring them up later. Sometimes she brings up small details to test your reaction, as if she's checking whether you realized she paid attention. She might phrase it lightly, "Didn't you say you liked that place?" But underneath, she's revealing how closely she listens. If feelings are involved, she won't announce it directly. Instead, it slips through her recall of things you've shared, especially if those things were not significant enough for most people to store. Even in conversation, she anchors topics around things tied to you. She'll mention a show you talked about, a goal you said you're working on, or a habit you casually mentioned. These subtle callbacks show she revisits those details when you're not there, either in thought or emotion. Memory driven by interest is different from memory driven by politeness. The difference is that she holds on to things that matter to you because, in a quiet way, they matter to her too. When someone is secretly thinking about you, they don't always come out and say it directly, but their behavior finds quiet ways to keep the connection alive. One of the clearest signs is when she creates small, subtle opportunities to stay in touch. It might not look obvious at first. She may not blow up your phone or start conversations with something intense. But you'll notice she always seems to reappear just before the silence stretches too long. She might react to your story with something light, send a random reel, or ask a question that doesn't really need an answer. These moments look casual on the surface, but the consistency behind them speaks louder than the message itself. Sometimes she waits for you to post something or drop a status just so she has a doorway back into your space. She might reply to something minor, an emoji, a quick lol, or a comment that doesn't even address the main topic, just to restart the energy. And she times it well too. She might message when she knows you're usually free or when she thinks you might be thinking of her too. The point isn't the conversation's depth, it's the excuse to stay present in your life without drawing attention to her intentions. There are also those moments where she pretends the contact is purely practical or coincidental. Maybe she checks in about something you mentioned earlier, asks for an update on a plan, or pretends she needs your opinion on something random. The topic could have been handled by anyone, or not handled at all, but she chooses you. Even when the subject is simple or unnecessary, it gives her space to hear from you again and renew that back and forth rhythm. She might also use shared jokes, mutual friends, or common interests to initiate small interactions. If she sees a reference to something you once talked about, she sends it with a quick line like, "Saw this and thought of that convo." She makes it casual, but the fact she connected the moment to you shows where her mind went first. When someone isn't thinking about you, they don't look for reasons to reconnect. When they are, silence feels uncomfortable, so they carefully maintain a thread that never fully breaks. Even delayed responses don't always mean disinterest. Sometimes she waits before replying not because she forgot, but because she wants the timing to feel natural, not desperate. Then, just when you think the conversation is over, she drops a new question, comment, or reaction that brings it back to life. She keeps the door open without flinging it wide. These subtle touches are her way of staying close without exposing how often you actually cross her mind. The effort hides inside the casualness, but the consistency exposes the truth. She doesn't really want the connection to fade, even if she pretends otherwise. When she's secretly thinking about you, it often shows up in places you wouldn't expect, like in the way her friends seem to know things you never mentioned to them personally. You might be talking to someone in her circle and suddenly realize they're aware of details that only she should know. Maybe they casually bring up your favorite hangout spot, your hobby, or something funny you once said in a private conversation. That doesn't happen by accident. It means you've slipped into her conversations when you're not around, and she's been sharing bits of you without even realizing it exposes her thoughts. People don't talk about someone repeatedly unless that person is taking up space in their mind. Even if she tries to play it cool around you, her curiosity and emotions leak out when she's with the people she trusts. She might mention your habits, opinions, or even small updates about your life that no one else would know unless she brought it up. Her friends may react to you with a weird familiarity, like they've been hearing your name a lot lately. Maybe they tease her lightly when you show up, or they exchange looks when you walk into the room or message her. Those little reactions are signs that you're a topic, not just a passing mention. Sometimes, her friends start acting friendlier toward you without an obvious reason. They might try to talk to you more, follow you on social media, or drop hints in conversation that make you wonder how they even know certain things. This happens because she's likely shared stories or moments involving you, and she might have done it more than once. Whether she was excited, confused, amused, or curious, you were still the focus of the moment being shared. There are also moments where one of her friends unintentionally slips. They might reference something you like or mention something you said in private, then backtrack when they realize you caught on. Friends don't magically know what kind of music you listen to, your weekend plans, or a goal you mentioned unless that information was passed along. And if it keeps coming up, it means she isn't just mentioning you once, she's bringing you up enough for it to stick with them. Even if she tries to hide her interest, the people around her often give it away first. They might observe how she reacts when you text or how her mood shifts when your name pops up. If they seem more curious about you than usual or act like they're low-key assessing you, they probably know she's been thinking about you more than she lets on. You don't get discussed in someone's inner circle unless you've made a real impact on their thoughts. And when she keeps you in her conversations, it's a quiet confession she would never say out loud. When someone can't get you off their mind, their reactions to anything related to you become noticeably quick and consistent. Even if she tries to hide her interest, the speed and timing of her responses reveal what's really going on behind the scenes. If you post something on social media and she's often one of the first to view, like, react, or comment, it's not coincidence. It's attention. She might not always respond with something big or obvious, but the timing says everything. You upload a story, and within minutes she's seen it. You tweet or post a status, and there she is engaging before most people even notice it exists. That kind of responsiveness happens when someone is subconsciously tuned into you. Her replies in private conversations follow a similar pattern. Even if she doesn't double text or openly flirt, she doesn't leave your messages hanging for long unless she's trying to create space on purpose. You notice that when you text, she replies faster than she does with other people, or her tone shifts slightly to match your energy. She might act as if she's just being friendly or available, but the consistency of her timing suggests you're on her radar more than most. There can also be this rhythm where she responds to certain types of messages more quickly than others. when the topic involves something about your life, your plans, or your feelings, she's sharper and more engaged. If you mention something personal, she's there instantly with a reaction, question, or follow up. Even her reactions, emojis, laughs, or subtle comments come faster when the conversation feels connected to you specifically. She may even, accidentally, respond quickly, then try to slow down afterward to not make it obvious. Another subtle sign is how she engages with content you don't directly send her. Maybe she reacts to something you commented on elsewhere or views your stories at odd hours. You might not talk for a bit, but she'll suddenly pop up liking a recent post or reacting to something small just to signal her presence. That quiet digital footsteps pattern means you're in her thoughts whether or not there's active communication. And don't overlook how she notices changes. You switch your profile picture or post something different from your usual vibe, and she's quick to react or ask about it. She keeps track because she's paying attention even when she pretends not to be. Most people scroll without focus, but when someone is mentally locked on you, they catch things others miss. In group chats or shared spaces, her engagement around your presence also shifts. She might respond faster when you speak up or join a conversation. Even if she keeps things subtle, the timing always gives a glimpse of where her attention goes first. Fast reactions aren't always about free time, they're often about priority. And when someone consistently shows up seconds or minutes after you do, it's not random interest. It's quiet obsession in disguise. One of the clearest signs that someone can't get you off their mind is when your name keeps showing up in conversations that have nothing to do with you. She might not even realize she's doing it, but you slip into her thoughts so often that you accidentally slip into her words too. It could be something as small as her saying, "That reminds me of someone," then mentioning a joke you made, a story you told, or a habit you have. Even when the topic is totally unrelated, she finds a way to connect it back to you because you're quietly living in the background of her thoughts. You'll notice she references moments you've shared or things you've said in places where it doesn't necessarily fit. Maybe she's talking with friends, classmates, or coworkers and randomly brings up something you like, something funny you did, or a plan you once mentioned. She won't make it obvious, and she may pretend it's just part of the conversation, but people don't reference someone repeatedly unless that person is looping in their mind. Sometimes she drops your name to see how others react or to test if you come up in return. Maybe she says, "Hey once said something similar," or "I know someone who does that," then subtly hints at you. Even if she doesn't use your name directly, the description is clearly pointing your way. The conversation doesn't need to be about relationships or emotions. Your existence just floats into her mind so frequently that she finds ways to include you without thinking. Pay attention to the way her tone shifts when she speaks about you. If someone else mentions you, she reacts faster or more sharply than she does with others. She might pretend she's just being normal, but the energy in her voice and the way she engages gives away her interest. Her friends might tease her lightly or look at her when your name comes up, and that's another subtle sign you're not just a random mention. You're a recurring topic. Even in private conversations, she might bring you up indirectly. For example, she could mention seeing something that reminded her of you, hearing a song tied to a memory, or passing by a place you once talked about. These, by the way, moments aren't random, they're mini confessions masked as casual thoughts. When someone isn't thinking about you, they don't connect everyday moments back to you. But when she keeps finding reasons to mention you, it means you're on her mind even during the most ordinary conversations. The more often your name appears where it doesn't need to, the clearer it is that you're not just a passing thought. You're someone she mentally circles back to again and again, even when she tries not to show it. Curiosity is one of the biggest giveaways that you're on someone's mind more than they admit, and it shows through the way she asks about your day, your plans, your habits, and even the small routines most people overlook. When someone is indifferent, they stick to surface-level interactions. But when she's quietly invested, she finds ways to check in, stay updated, and keep track of what's going on in your world without making it seem obvious. You might notice she asks questions that go beyond basic conversation. Instead of just saying, "How are you?" she'll ask what you've been working on lately, whether you ate, how an event went, or what you're doing later. It's not interrogation, it's interest. She wants to know what your day looks like because she imagines herself in it, even if silently. The more she thinks about you, the more she naturally tries to stay informed. There are also moments when she recalls things you mentioned earlier and follows up unprompted. Maybe you once said you had an appointment, a meeting, an exam, or a family plan, and days later she asks how it went. That's not random kindness. That's memory mixed with curiosity. She may try to disguise it as casual conversation, but remembering details and checking back in shows that you linger in her thoughts after the moment has passed. You'll also notice how she tries to connect with your routines. She might ask what time you usually work, when you rest, who you hang out with, or what your weekends look like. Sometimes she phrases it in a light way, like asking what you're usually up to at certain times, but there's intention underneath. She wants to understand where you fit into her mental space and where she might fit into yours. Another subtle sign is when she reaches out at times she knows you're free. That means she's paid attention. Maybe she's noticed you reply faster in the evenings, or you're always active online at a certain hour. Her timing becomes a soft clue that she's not guessing, she's observing. Even when she doesn't ask direct questions, the way she shows up reveals she's keeping track. She might also show interest in things connected to your environment, your friends, your job, your sleep schedule, your goals. Even asking small things like, "Did you eat?" or "How was your morning?" can hold more meaning than the words suggest. People don't think about the rhythm of your day unless you've already become part of theirs in some way. Sometimes her curiosity spills into indirect conversations. She may ask mutual friends about you, check your updates without interacting, or pick up on changes in your behavior before others notice. She stays tuned in, even when you're not speaking, because her attention rests on you more often than she lets on. Curiosity fueled by emotion doesn't announce itself. It shows up in patterns, timing, memory, and quiet efforts to stay connected. And when someone keeps wanting to know how your life is moving, it's usually because their thoughts are already moving in your direction.